The woman sat on the ground, gasping in pain. She seemed to be having difficulty breathing. A passing man, pretending to help her up, approached with lust in his eyes. But suddenly, a group of thieves appeared. Their leader claimed that this woman was his wife, and he used this excuse to extort money from the passerby. Then they brutally killed him. It turned out that the woman was actually part of their gang. Everything had been planned by her in advance. Yet this vicious woman carried a tragic past. A few years earlier, she had been a kind and gentle girl. She lived a carefree life in her father's kendo dojo. Both the young swordsman Onihei and his senior, Kishii, admired her, but neither of them had the courage to confess their feelings to Ohu. Not long after, Ohu married someone else. Her husband was Sebe, the son of a wealthy and well-known merchant. On Ohu's wedding day, Onihei and Kishii walked along the river for a long time to see her off. They could only watch helplessly as the woman they loved walked into another man's arms. The two tried to comfort themselves. They told each other that marrying the son of a rich merchant was far better for Ohu than marrying two wandering swordsmen, but they had no idea this would be the beginning of Ohu's tragic fate. At first, Ohu was genuinely happy. Sebe loved her deeply, and Ohu was pregnant with his child. But while Sebe was away on a business trip, he died unexpectedly for unknown reasons, and Ohu's child mysteriously died in her womb as well. Sebe's younger brother naturally became the new head of the family. It was then that Ohu realized everything had been orchestrated by him, but there was nothing she could do. She could only accept the result. Yet Sebe's brother had no intention of letting her go. He blamed Sebe's death on Ohu, calling her a bringer of misfortune, and drove her out of the house. At that time, Ohu's father had also passed away. Alone and helpless, she had nowhere to go. It was then that she encountered Hattori. Hattori forced Ohu to go with him. Ohu didn't resist. Perhaps she felt this was simply her fate. But with Hattori, Ohu gradually saw the ugliness of the world. She began to believe that only people with money and power were truly alive. Everyone else existed only to serve them. Not long after, the gentle Ohu completely changed. She would pretend to be a sick young woman at night. And when a man took the bait, Hattori would show up immediately to extort a large sum of money. With this scheme, they robbed quite a fortune. Hattori and Ohu soon became notorious thieves, but before long, they drew the attention of Onihei, the chief of the arson thief control office. Yet Onihei had no idea that the one behind these recent crimes was the girl he had once secretly loved. Onihei visited the old kendo dojo from his youth. He couldn't help but remember those younger days, and the girl he had once fallen for. But to his surprise, he ran into his senior, Kishii. There, the two sat together drinking and chatting. Naturally, their talk drifted to Ohu. Years had passed since they last saw her. Neither of them knew what had become of her. After some small talk, they parted ways. Onihei then found his informant, Hankachō, and asked about Hattori. According to Hankachō, Hattori ran a gambling den, cheating people out of money. He also collected protection fees from shops everywhere. Anyone who refused would be punished. Hankachō also mentioned that Hattori's wife, Ohu, was just as ruthless. The familiar name stunned Onihei. A sense of dread rose inside him, but he silently prayed that this woman was not the Ohu he once knew. Only a few days later, Hankachō came to Onihei again. He told him that Hattori planned to rob the largest business in town, and that business happened to belong to Ohu's late husband's family. Hearing this, Onihei didn't hesitate. He led his men straight into Hattori's hideout. With swift, decisive sword strikes, Onihei cut down the entire gang, but in the corner, he saw Ohu. At that moment, Onihei felt overwhelming sorrow. He couldn't bring himself to face her. He began interrogating Hattori first. According to Hattori, the entire plan had been devised by Ohu. She wanted revenge. Onihei didn't know what Ohu had gone through, but he couldn't bring himself to question her directly. He ordered his subordinates to interrogate her instead. Onihei then called for Kishii. When Kishii saw Ohu kneeling on the ground, he couldn't believe what he was seeing. The two men silently listened from inside the room, as the constable questioned Ohu outside. Only through the interrogation did Onihei and Kishii finally learn how miserable Ohu's life had been after marrying into that wealthy family. Kishii couldn't hold back and rushed outside. Ohu recognized them both, but she said nothing. She simply followed the constable away. Perhaps, if Onihei and Kishii had been brave enough back then, Ohu's fate would not have been so tragic, but life rarely offers so many what-ifs. Masashi and her father ran a tavern together. but Masashi met a strange swordsman. He often came to the tavern, always already dead drunk, yet still wanting more to drink. Masashi quietly took care of him every time, and she gradually began to fall for the swordsman, but a plague took her father's life. The tavern could no longer stay open. Masashi had no choice but to become a thief, just to survive in a chaotic world where people devoured one another. But Masashi followed her own code as a thief. She never killed anyone, and she never stole from the poor, until one day, during a job, Masashi infiltrated the target household as an insider. The wealthy merchant's young daughter came to see Masashi as an older sister. Even in her sleep, she murmured Masashi's name, but Masashi was still a thief in the end. Under the cover of night, she led her fellow thieves inside, following her guidance. They made their way to the merchant's money vault. Just as everything was going smoothly, the little girl discovered them. One thief tried to kill her to silence her. Masashi immediately shielded the girl, but in the next second, a throwing knife slit the girl's throat. The one who threw it was their leader, Bunkyo. Masashi didn't dare oppose him, but since that day, Masashi often saw the girl's ghostly image. The child's death filled her with guilt, but soon after, Bunkyo approached Masashi again and assigned her the next mission, to infiltrate a merchant store as an informant, but Masashi refused. She only asked Bunkyo whether he would kill again. Bunkyo didn't answer, he simply turned and left, but his silence was already the clearest answer. Masashi could no longer tolerate Bunkyo murdering innocent people, so she went to the authorities and revealed all of Bunkyo's plans. What she didn't expect was this: the head of the constables was the very swordsman she had met years ago, Onihei. Masashi told Onihei everything about Bunkyo's scheme, but Bunkyo was cunning. Before the day of the job, he would never reveal the robbery target. Hearing this, Onihei asked Masashi to be his informant. Masashi looked at Onihei's face and eventually agreed. For Masashi's safety, Onihei assigned Hakoto, also a thief, to protect her. After 5 days of waiting, Masashi finally received Bunkyo's message. He planned to act the day after tomorrow, but when Masashi asked for the location of the target, Bunkyo became suspicious of her. Masashi had never asked such questions before. After Bunkyo left, Masashi and Hakoto secretly followed him, hoping to use this chance to find the thieves' hideout. They trailed him the entire day, and finally discovered the location of their base. Masashi told Hakoto to go inform Onihei, while she stayed behind to keep watch. But after Hakoto left, a man suddenly appeared and grabbed Masashi. Bunkyo decided to hide Masashi first, and kill her after everything settled down, but all of this was witnessed by a girl working nearby. When Onihei and Hakoto arrived, the girl told them everything she had seen. Onihei hurried after them, but no matter how he searched, he couldn't find Masashi. Then a few drops of blood on the ground caught Onihei's eye. In an instant, he realized the truth. Masashi wasn't unconscious at all. She was pretending, hoping to use the chance to find Bunkyo's main hideout, and the blood was the trail she left for Onihei. Onihei immediately followed the trail of blood. He had no idea how much blood Masashi had lost. All he knew was that he had to find her quickly. Finally, Onihei found the thieves' stronghold. He told Hakoto to go bring reinforcements, while he stayed behind. But once Hakoto was gone, Onihei rushed into the compound himself. He knew Masashi wouldn't survive until backup arrived, and he didn't want Hakoto risking his life with him. Two thieves were patrolling nearby. From their conversation, Onihei learned where Masashi was being held. After taking down several thieves, he finally saw Masashi inside a room. At that moment, Masashi was in danger of being violated by the thief. Onihei charged in and killed the man instantly. Then he placed his own coat over Masashi's shoulders. Then the other thieves heard the noise and rushed over. Onihei hid Masashi and faced the group alone. Onihei's swordsmanship was exceptional. The thieves fell one after another, but soon, his strength was spent. He was severely wounded. More thieves closed in rapidly. At the critical moment, Onihei's men finally arrived. With a strong push, the constables wiped out the remaining thieves. Onihei told Hakoto to bring clothes and fetch Masashi alone, warning him not to let anyone else see her current state. After giving his orders, Onihei fainted. When everything was finally over, Masashi at last had the chance to sit and talk with the man she had once secretly loved. But many years had passed. She had become a thief, and Onihei had become a constable. He had a wife and children, and Onihei never realized Masashi's feelings for him. He still saw her as the little girl she used to be. When Hanshiro was a child, he witnessed his father being killed with his own eyes. His father's blood splattered all over him. From that day on, Hanshiro became terrified of the smell of blood. To avenge his father, he eventually became an assassin because he feared the scent of blood. Hanshiro would always drench himself in heavy perfume before every killing, and on this day, Hanshiro received a new assignment. He was ordered to assassinate the constable Onihei. He thought it would be just like all the jobs before, a simple kill and get paid task, but he didn't expect Onihei to block his surprise attack. At that moment, other constables rushed over. Hanshiro had no choice but to retreat. The next day, Hanshiro confronted his employer and demanded more money, because Onihei was far stronger than anyone he had ever faced. Killing him would not be easy. The employer agreed, but mocked him the entire time. The man's attitude disgusted Hanshiro deeply, but for the sake of money, he forced himself to endure it. On a rainy night, Hanshiro launched his second assassination attempt, but the thick scent of perfume on his body was impossible to hide. Even in the rain, Onihei blocked his attack again. When he returned home, the rain on his body reminded him of the blood from his father's death. He fell unconscious in terror. When he woke up, Hanshiro found Misaki, the maid from the landlord's family, sitting beside him. He understood Misaki's feelings for him, but he pretended to be cold and told her to leave, because he was a man carrying a sea of blood and vengeance. Until he completed his revenge, he would not allow himself to do anything unnecessary. Yet despite Hanshiro's coldness, Misaki still brought him hot porridge every day. She was even scolded by her landlords because of it, but Misaki didn't care. Watching Hanshiro finish the porridge, she felt genuinely happy, but Hanshiro had no idea that these peaceful days would not last for long, because Onihei had already traced the signature scent on him back to the shop that sold that particular perfume. And when Hanshiro went to buy more perfume, the constables immediately moved to arrest him, but Hanshiro escaped once again. However, when he arrived home, he found the landlord and his wife beating and cursing Misaki. Without hesitation, Hanshiro killed the couple. Perhaps it was because their insults toward Misaki were too vile, or perhaps he had fallen in love with her. Hanshiro had no choice but to take Misaki and hide in a nearby temple. For the past 20 years, he had lived only for revenge, but he had searched the entire country and never once found the man he was hunting. He thought he would live out the rest of his life in misery, but then he met Misaki. For Misaki's sake, Hanshiro was willing to abandon his revenge, so he decided to take Misaki and elope to a place where no one knew them. But before that, Hanshiro still needed to complete the assassination of Onihei, because he needed that reward money for their future. But he didn't know that everything he said was overheard clearly by one of Onihei's spies. After receiving word, Onihei showed no fear at all. He simply waited quietly for Hanshiro to come. At dawn the next morning, Hanshiro prepared to assassinate Onihei. Misaki removed her protective charm and placed it around Hanshiro's neck. Hanshiro told her to meet him at Itai Bridge at 6 o'clock the next evening. He promised he would return and take her away. Hanshiro quickly found Onihei. Onihei sensed his presence as well. He knew Hanshiro preferred to strike at night, so he intentionally led him to a secluded tea house. Hanshiro followed without hesitation. The moment the shopkeeper saw Hanshiro, he froze in shock, but Hanshiro ignored him completely. He burst into the room where Onihei was waiting. They immediately began fighting, but this time, Hanshiro was no longer a match for Onihei. Onihei told him that Hanshiro's attacks used to be fast and vicious, the strikes of someone who didn't care whether he lived or died. But now his attacks were too slow. It was obvious that he no longer wanted to risk his life. Hanshiro drew his dagger and tried to stab himself, but he couldn't bring himself to do it, because he didn't want to die. He now had someone he cared about. Hanshiro ran desperately, trying to escape toward the future he dreamed of. But suddenly, the shopkeeper stabbed him in the back. The shopkeeper told him that his name was Yunosuke. Upon hearing that name, Hanshiro instantly remembered. It was the name of the man who killed his father, the man he had searched for over 20 long years. And how ironic that the moment Hanshiro gave up revenge and finally wished to live happily with the woman he loved, his enemy appeared before him. After killing Hanshiro, Yunosuke immediately fled with his wife. As they passed over Itai Bridge, Misaki stood waiting. She would never know that the person she was waiting for would never come again, and she would never know that her sworn enemy had just brushed past her in the night.